I want to play a clip from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on CNN last night because I honestly thought it was the strongest answer I've heard a progressive provided on corporate media. It was on CNN. I got to give credit to Chris Cuomo because I truly thought he was going to cut her off for making this point, which is a point that is obvious. It defies common sense that the corporate media doesn't cover it this way. It defies common sense why the corporate media is never asking those Republicans or those corporate Democrats, well, how are you going to pay for this war? How are you going to pay for these bombs in Syria? How are you going to pay for these tax cuts for Trump's donors and corporations? Why is it that Jeff Bezos is getting all these subsidies for another headquarters for Amazon? Who's going to pay for that? Never a question who's going to pay for the corporate welfare and the military-industrial complex. Never need to discuss that, which is the point Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez made on CNN. So let me play this clip for you, and then we'll talk about it on the flip side.
Then you get into the partisan issue of money, which is, man, do you want to spend a lot of my tax money on these proposals that you and Bernie and others have? Medicare for all, college tuition, maybe even housing. That the Green New Deal that you have, it is all very expensive, especially on the single payer side, and that it gives people sticker shock. Even in Bernie's home state, they got sticker shock. They couldn't get it done in his state because of how expensive it is. And that was an 11% increase in taxes, 9 to 11%. Even that was too much for people. How do you pay? How do you sell it?
So first of all, the thing that we need to realize is people talk about the sticker shock of Medicare for all. They do not talk about the sticker shock of the cost of our existing system. You know, in a Koch brothers funded study, if any study is going to try to be a little bit slanted, it would be one funded by the Koch brothers. It shows that Medicare for all is actually much cheaper than the current system that we pay right now. And let's not forget that the reason that the Supreme Court upheld the Affordable Care Act is because they ruled that each of these monthly payments that everyday Americans make is a tax. And so while it may not seem like we pay that tax on April 15th, we pay it every single month, or we do pay a tax season if we don't buy, these plans off of the exchange. So we're paying for this system. We Americans have the sticker shock of healthcare as it is. And what we're also not talking about is why aren't we incorporating the cost of all the funeral expenses of those who die because they can't afford access to healthcare? That is part of the cost of our system. Why don't we talk about the cost of reduced productivity because of people who need to go on disability, because of people who are not able to participate in our economy, because they're having issues like diabetes or they don't have access to the health care that they need. I think at the end of the day, we see that this is not a pipe dream. Every other developed nation in the world does this. Why can't America? And that is the question that we need to ask. We have done these things before. We write unlimited blank checks for war. We just wrote a $2 trillion check for that tax cut, the GOP tax cut, and nobody asked those folks how are they going to pay for it. So my question is, why is it that our pockets are only empty when it comes to education and health care for our kids? Why are our pockets only empty when we talk about 100% renewable energy that is going to save this planet and allow our children to thrive? We only have empty pockets when it comes to the morally right things to do. But when it comes to tax cuts for billionaires and when it comes to unlimited war, we seem to be able to invent that money very easily. And to me, it belies a lack of moral priorities that people have right now, especially the Republican Party.
Preach! Preach, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And I don't know if you saw that high-level production for Facebook so you could hear it. I put the microphone, I tilted the microphone. Ty is on vacation right now, but when he gets back, we're going to figure out how. For some reason, I could figure out I'm using OBS, which is a kind of a text system to show you graphics and video. And for some reason, it's only working on YouTube and Periscope. I'm live on YouTube, Periscope, and Facebook right now. For some reason, I haven't been able to figure it out for Facebook. So apologize for anyone watching on Facebook. Hope you'll still share the video because as you've seen, Facebook, YouTube, Periscope is suppressing the hell out of this channel and other independent media. So we definitely need you guys to share and support, whether it's financially or just sharing the videos. We appreciate it. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez literally just made a point that is never even allowed It's never even allowed to be made on corporate media. And I got to give credit. Facebook folks probably didn't see it. But did you see Chris Cuomo's face? Did you see his face when she was dropping the knowledge? I didn't know if he, was holding in diarrhea, excuse my French, or if something else was going on. It looked like a mix of a pulled muscle or a brain aneurysm Chris Cuomo was suffering from when Alexandria Ocasio was basically subtly, it was very subtle, but Ocasio-Cortez was basically saying, why is it that politicians, and CNN, by the way, only have the bandwidth to ask how are we going to pay for healthcare for all? Why is it that politicians only have the bandwidth to ask how are we going to pay for this Green New Deal? Why is it that politicians never, ever, it never dawns on them, how much do these wars cost? How much does these tax cuts cost? How much does this deregulation cost? How much does more and more favors for Amazon, Jeff Bezos, the Walton family, and on and on and on cost? How much does it cost? Because I can tell you one thing. Corporate media, they don't care about those things. You want to know why? Because it benefits them. Tax cuts for the rich, deregulation. And they don't go to the Flints of the world. They don't go to communities where people are struggling, not only for healthcare, but to put food on the table. They don't go to communities that are being affected by pipelines. No. They don't go to those areas. So that's why it doesn't dawn upon them. I worked at MSNBC. I worked at Fox News. I've worked in digital media. These are very nice buildings these anchors report from. These are very nice cities these anchors report from. They get paid a lot of money to report a whole lot of nothing. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez basically was saying, why is it that we don't have money for anything moral that helps the masses, but we always have money for things that help no one? This is part of why she won. She out hustled Joe Crowley in New York. She introduced herself to a lot of people in the Bronx and Queens. Joe Crowley took it for granted, but that kind of message makes sense to the masses. It makes sense even to people in the Midwest. I know Senator Tammy Baldwin says, Ocasio-style progressivism, Bernie Sanders-style socialism will not work in the Midwest. Well, I got news for you. Trump ran, even though he was lying, Trump ran on some of those themes. Trump ran on enough with the war state. That's what he ran on. Trump ran on enough fake trade that's only helping corporations and the deregulatory state and not helping average Americans, meanwhile sending their jobs to China, Mexico, and elsewhere. That's a lot of what he ran on because I was there, I heard it. I, at the time, told the audience when I was at the Young Turks, this is BS, obviously, but he did run on some progressive themes. Make no mistake about it. He did run on some progressive themes. But in large part, he was able to win because of that. So when you hear progressive messages, don't believe corporate media that, that's nice, but that won't win the people in the Midwest. Progressive ideals have already won in the Midwest. Why do you think Bernie Sanders upset Hillary Clinton in Michigan, right? Why do you think Bernie Sanders won Wisconsin? Why do you think Trump won Michigan? Trump won Wisconsin. It wasn't all the racist dog whistling. It was because these workers, most of the Midwest was against the bailout of 2008, if you remember. Most of the Midwest is against corporate cronyism. They're just hoodwinked by a fake populace. That's what happened. And I can tell you, it's not so anecdotal. I probably covered 30 to 50 Trump rallies. I can't tell you how many Trump supporters I asked, if you weren't going to vote for Trump, who would you vote for? Did you know what they told me? Bernie Sanders. Not making it up. That's what they told me. So it is not a pipe dream what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is saying. And by the way, going back to the election, it's also not it's not a nothing Brent Welder in Kansas, right? There was some issue. A lot of people think, well, why is it that he was up and all of a sudden he was up? He was winning, and all of a sudden there was an issue with the voting machines or something like that, and then he's losing. I've looked into it briefly. I don't see anything that's that out of control or that suspect, but he only lost by 3 percentage points in Kansas. Kansas is very, very red. Kansas is very, very red. And to remind you, YouTube folks, this is a super chat, so any contributions help. We're trying to get funding from wherever we could get it. Patreon, PayPal, and YouTube Super Chat. So Jen could tell you how to do that. So what I'm saying, forget just Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, is the Democratic Party not paying attention? They keep thinking that the only way to win is by money. Because Hillary Clinton wasn't outspent 2-1, right? She was Hillary Clinton outspent Trump 2-1. The Democratic Party, they only think the only way to win is money. But Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is showing not just by winning, but by going on CNN. Let me tell you something. People in the Midwest watching her saying, why is it that we only have questions about money when it comes to war? Why is it that we only have questions about money when it comes to tax cuts? That's a very attractive message. I don't care if it's a man saying it, a woman saying it, a Muslim saying it, a Latino saying it, or a marshmallow saying it. That speaks to people in Flint and Detroit and parts of Wisconsin and parts of Illinois and parts of Pennsylvania. I know because I went to these rallies, Bernie rallies, Trump rallies, even other candidates that were in the Midwest. And it's not just the Midwest, by the way. It's not just the Midwest. Prices and inflation are going up all over this country. You go to California, you go to Oregon, you go to Washington State, you go to New Mexico. These are all places I'd like to go because I get stories in all the time from the audience. We just need the funding. This is grassroots, baby. I'm not with an outlet anymore that has a ton of money, so we are depending on the audience to fund us, and we will get there. And definitely, if you haven't seen it yet, if you're watching on Facebook or Periscope, go to my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Jordan Sheridan Reports. We got videos up from Chicago, Flint, Virginia, where we've been in the last few months. But when I was watching that Ocasio-Cortez clip, my first thought was, is the Democratic Party paying attention here? Because this is a winning message. But the reason it's not that they're not paying attention. They're purposely ignoring the message. Because in the end, when you are Nancy Pelosi, when you are Chuck Schumer, when you are Dick Durbin, when you are Steny Hoyer, you've been in the Senate or Congress for 30 to 40 years. It's like if you ever watch Shawshank Redemption, never fail to bring up a Shawshank analogy, my favorite movie. It's like when old Brooks, who was at the Shawshank prison for 50 years, finally gets out. He doesn't know what the hell to do with himself. He's institutionalized. He's institutionalized at that point. All he knows is prison and prison life. So he can't take it. And unfortunately, he sends his birdie out and he hangs himself, which I'm not endorsing. Don't do that. But my point is, these people like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and all these Democratic leaders, and to a certain extent, the fresh faces, the Cory Bookers of the world, and the Kirsten Gillibrands of the world, and the Kamala Harrises of the world, and that really beautiful Joe Kennedy, second or the third, who the hell knows? They only know money. And they think Hillary Clinton didn't lose because she didn't have a message. She lost because she was a bad candidate. Well, I got news for you. She lost because she only cared about money and she had no message. Stronger together, not a message. Sorry. Not a message. So bravo to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I'd like to see more of that. Honestly, for all his warts, Anthony Weiner, for example, for every stupid thing he did, he gave one hell of a speech on the floors of Congress back in the day about the crony Republicans and the corrupt Republicans, and he even took on his own party. We need more Ocasio-Cortezes, even if they don't win electorally, to push themselves in corporate media, to help boost independent media with that kind of message. Because I promise you, I have been out in the field all over this country. That is a winning message in red states. That is a winning message in states with a lot of manufacturing and plants. It's just you got to tweak the message sometimes to where you are, but it is a winning message. That is for sure.